Hey there, and welcome back to another video with your girl, Spiritual Detective. So in today's video, I wanted to do something different. It's not different for y'all. I'm sure you've done something like this before, but it's different for me to do for the collective. So today I'm going to do a pick a card. And I want you all to take a moment. I'm going to put the cards up on the screen, and then I want you to take a minute to pause to yourself and meditate on which card is best, or you feel like you're being called to look at, whether it's card 1, 2, or 3. And these are the messages that spirit says you need to hear the most right now. So take a moment to choose which card or cards you feel drawn to, and we'll proceed. If you chose card number 1, your card was the 8 of Swords. Spirit wants this specific group to know that you're keeping yourself stuck. You're keeping yourself stuck wherever it is that you are, whether you're in your own mental prison, um, whether it's in your mind or in reality, but like you're keeping yourself stuck wherever you are. Um, you don't have to remain in this place or in this mind state or around these people. You have a choice. You know, you do have a choice, much like this woman inside in the photo. She's tied up here. She's surrounded by what it looks like, what looks like a cage, sort of, right, of swords, and she's tied up. But like, if you take note, she doesn't look like she's completely bound, right? Like, she doesn't look like she's so tied up that she cannot like just maybe wiggle out of that, right? It looks like it's like the thread is already falling off of her to begin with, right? So this card usually signifies you being like in your own prison, so to speak. The swords speak on the mind, right? Speak on communication, um, speaks on our intellect. And so the reason why I said prison of the mind is because usually a lot of our limitations are formed in the mind, right? So if you are feeling like stuck or you can't do something, it's because you are creating or you have created some limited belief at some point or another in your life, where you feel like this is what you deserve, right? Some level of you feels like you deserve to be in this imprisonment, and you don't need to be in this imprisonment. And quite frankly, this isn't even a prison. It's not even a cage, right? There are all but 8 swords around. I'm pretty sure she can also just walk through it, you know? So again, again indicating that you are there of your own accord. If you're feeling stuck, you don't have to feel stuck. You can make moves, you can wiggle, you can get out of there. I also feel like with this card, um, so if you are going through something right now, mentally, even like if you're in a relationship where you feel stuck, you don't have to feel stuck. You can literally remove yourself from there. Also with this card, I'm getting this energy of moving forward and tapping into your emotions. Okay. So I feel like maybe journaling might be good for you at this time, right? So you can tap into your emotions and understand, try and figure out why is it that you feel so stuck where you are, right? Because oftentimes, while we do search for answers outside of us, whether it's on YouTube, watching these types of videos about readings, or if we're actually booking readings with a medium, with a psychic, with a tarot reader, uh, or if we're seeking advice from a friend, so on and so forth, therapy, etc. Right? Um, Usually, the answers are inside of us. Usually, you can better answer that question than anybody else could, right? So, journaling, I find, is a really great outlet to have a conversation with yourself where like you're reading it at the same time as you're writing it, and come to like really amazing breakthroughs. Okay, so writing down what you feel and writing down why you feel so stuck and things like that, I think will benefit you, um as to figuring out why you feel like you deserve to be imprisoned in this way. And then in reference to the moving forward, I see in the background here, if you take note, there's like this mountain, or homes up by a mountain, something like that. I feel like you move up higher. I feel like once you break through from this, and you journal and discover what it is that's going on in your mind, why you feel so imprisoned, right, so to speak. I feel like um there is elevation from this, right? Like you grow. Number one, you grow. And number two, I feel like there's like new perspective, right? Like you have better or new perspective or higher perspective, right? Because I'm seeing this is like high up, right? Like it reminds me of Italy, even, right? I've never been to Italy, but I've seen it on TV. But it reminds me of Italy, where like a lot of the houses are up like on mountains, or maybe Greece, right? Might be Greece, or maybe both. I've never been to Europe, so I can't even say. I'm going based off like images I've seen on TV. But I feel like this is representative of having a higher perspective, a different perspective, a better perspective once you release yourself from this, right? Once you discover what's going on. So the message for group one, or card one, whomever chose card one, is the Eight of Swords. And if you are mentally, physically, in any way imprisoned, ask yourself, journal why you find yourself in this position, when you know deep inside this is a choice. You do not have to remain where you've been or where you've always been. You can always change your circumstances. It's just a matter of making a choice. Okay. So now we're going to move on to group two, card number two. Now, group number two. Group number two, you got the Five of Pentacles. Five of Pentacles. Now, with the Five of Pentacles here for group number two, it feels almost stressful. It feels like you've put too much of yourself on the line, right? Like you've put too much effort. You're pouring from an empty cup, basically. That's the energy that I'm getting. I feel like you're pouring from an empty cup. I feel like while you would like, um mm, while you would like to help more people or friends or things of that nature, I feel like you yourself need some help, financially, or maybe you need to stop spreading yourself so thin, or stop aiding people when you yourself don't have it, right? Like I just feel like this is giving pouring from an empty cup, right? The Five of Pentacles, I usually hear that this phrase that's like, oh, what's the phrase that I normally hear with this card? A Being left out in the cold, right? You're being left out in the cold. That's usually the phrase that I hear with this card being left out in the cold. But I don't feel like you're left out in the cold unless you're leaving yourself out in the cold. I feel like this is an you're again similar to like group number one. I feel like this is a choice, you know, and even though your heart is in a good place, right, to like to help others, or be, you know, of assistance to other people in some way, shape, or form, it doesn't necessarily have to be with finances. It could just be like things that you value, right? Like it could be with your time, you know, you're talking to someone, you know, investing your time and your energy into them, pouring back into them, if they're having a hard time. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to help someone that's having a hard time. You know what I'm saying? But in the same breath, sometimes we don't even have enough to pour into somebody else because we need that energy for ourselves. So I feel like this is more speaking on values, right? This is more speaking on what do you value? What is worth it to you, right? So if you are someone that is extending yourself in all kinds of ways, right? What because you value quality time with people, or you value speaking life into people, right? Whatever the case is, I feel like right now is a better time for you to pour that energy back into yourself. Might that seem selfish or to others or even to yourself? Like, oh, damn, why should I not help so and so? Ultimately, it's your choice what you decide to do, but I do feel like you're spreading yourself thin. Spirit says you're spreading yourself a little too thin, and what's going to end up happening is you yourself will be depleted, right? And then who's going to pour into your cup because you're busy pouring into everybody else's cup? If your cup isn't full and their cups are not full, and then you're giving from your non-full cup, your half empty cup, to other half empty cups, everybody's cup is half empty. You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna have anything else to pour, not even for yourself. So it is not selfish to pour into yourself before you go and pour back into anybody else, right? So I think this is a good time for you to um, refocus the energy back on you, right? What is it that you need? What about you needs tending to, right? What about you needs tending to? Focus on that, all right? And now that's the message for group two. We're moving on to group number three. Group number three. If you chose card number three, then you got the Two of Pentacles. Okay, Two of Pentacles. With this Two of Pentacles, I'm getting this energy of I want to say finding a balance, right? I want to say finding a balance between this and this. one of the two things, right? Same way how he's holding these two pentacles in his hands. I feel like this is about finding a balance. Okay. So, and it's a balancing act of the things that you value the most, things that you care about the most. Also, I'm getting a side story here about also about money, right? So you could possibly also have been offered a job opportunity where um it's like, oh, it's more money, but then you're sacrificing like your time, right? Like too much of your time. It's like it pays well into the well into the six-figure range, but then you don't get to spend any time with your family, right? So I'm getting these two stories, but it's definitely all in tandem with finding a balance. But it's finding a balance with what you find or what you feel is most important to you, right? So either the money and the job is more important to you, or your family or your friends or your relationships are more important to you. Um, and you're just kind of like in the middle of like, well, which do I choose? Both. Choose both. Choose them both. Ultimately is your choice, of course. But I'm reading here that while there is that energy of like, what do I do? Which one do I pick? Because they're both equally important. I feel like you can find a balance with both. Okay. I feel like you can find a balance with both if you learn to balance your emotions. I feel like you're letting your emotions get in the way of how you maneuver through these two valuable things in your life, because you get overwhelmed. I'm getting this energy of feeling overwhelmed. So you get overwhelmed and then you feel like, oh, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't even focus on that right now. I'm too overwhelmed. There's too much happening. And what you really need to balance is your emotions. The emotions is what needs to be balanced. I read this book. Well, I know I read a couple of his books, so I might confuse which one of the books it is. So I'm just going to mention the author, and then y'all can figure out which of the books it was, because I can't even remember which book it was that he wrote where he said this. But the author of the book is Paulo Coelho, and he wrote The Alchemist, amongst a plethora of other amazing stories and books. And I've read a bunch of his books. I read this one. I read The Alchemist, and I read a lot of other of his books. Like I read 11 Minutes. I read Aleph. I read The Witch of Portobello. Um, you know, whatever book. But there was this one book that I read. I can't remember which one it was. It could have been 11 Minutes. It could have been The Zaire. I can't remember which one it was. But the storyline was about a girl, and I think it might have been Aleph. Don't quote me, but I think she was on the train or something like that. She was having a conversation with somebody, but she mentioned this phrase, and I never forget, like this line in the book. It was, or somebody said to her, emotions are like wild horses, right? And so I never forgot that, because I myself struggled a lot with learning how to balance my emotions, like dealing with my emotions and then dealing with real life, right? At the same time, because for me they're so intertwined, and it was hard if I was feeling in an emotional way, it was hard for me to execute anything on a physical level. So if that's you, that you have a difficulty balancing your emotions with the physical realm, like what you feel with what you need to do, um this is my line to you, and this is my line to myself that I've said to myself for years, ever since I read that. Emotions are like wild horses. Sometimes I listen to this and sometimes I don't. I'm not going to sit here and lie, but this is my advice to you. Emotions are like wild horses. You can't tame them. You have to let them run free, and then let them run free until they tame themselves, right? But while you don't want to let them tame themselves, because it can cause like chaos in your life as a human in this capitalistic world, that where we have to pay bills and blah blah blah, but like you can't always control your emotions, but you have to find a way to control them because they are wild, right? They are wild, so you must tame. You have to figure out a way to tame your emotions. So, much like in card group number two, was talking about emotions. Even, I'm sorry, I think it was group number one was talking about emotions, but here you want to also do the same thing. I'm going to advise the same thing. Write stuff down, journal, write down what is making you feel so unstable, right? Why do you feel so unstable and so thrown off course between um, handling your 3D life and then handling like your personal, like your physical life versus handling, what you feel you would much rather be doing, right? Like the example I used earlier, like the business versus spending time with your family, right? Um, and then figure out a way where like why you can't have both. Why can't you do both? Why can't you find a way or a means of doing both or enjoying both equally? You know? Okay. So that was it. Hope you guys enjoyed this pick a card reading. Let me know in the comments which card resonated with you. All right, drop a sword emoji. Drop a sword emoji if you made it this far, and please let me know which card you chose in the comments. All right, so have a good one. Cheers if you're having some tea. See you in the next video.